everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today.
It's great to be here.
We're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating, how AI is changing the way we think about ethics and make ethical decisions.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, it's not just like something out there in the future.
Right.
This is happening right now, in like healthcare and law and business.
Yeah, in pretty much every field.
Pretty much every field, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got some excerpts from a chapter that we're going to be diving into.
Okay.
It's called Human plus AI Ethics, the Secret Weapon Only Top CEOs Know.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So let's unpack this and see what secrets it holds for us today.
Let's do it.
So this chapter kicks off by talking about how AI is actually enhancing human judgment, not replacing it.
Yeah, that's a really key point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people think that AI is going to come in and replace human decision-making, but what we're seeing is actually it's more about AI augmenting human judgment.
Okay, so I get that it's a partnership.
Right.
But how does that partnership actually work?
Well, think about it this way. Imagine you're a doctor and you're faced with a really tough decision. Maybe you have to decide who gets priority for a life-saving treatment when resources are really scarce.
Right.
I mean, it's a heavy decision, and there are so many ethical considerations.
Absolutely. And, during COVID-19, we saw that kind of decision-making having to happen on a massive scale.
Exactly, and that's actually a great example of where AI can step in and make a real difference.
Yeah.
Researchers at Stanford developed an AI system that helped hospitals allocate ventilators more fairly during the peak of the crisis.
Oh, wow.
So, they fed the AI ethical guidelines and patient data, and then the AI was able to help ensure that those decisions weren't made based on, subjective factors or biases, but on need and the potential for survival.
So the AI wasn't making the final call, but it was
Right.
providing really important information.
Yeah, crucial information.
To help those human decision makers navigate that ethical minefield.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't just limited to healthcare either.
Okay.
We're seeing AI being used in similar ways in the legal system as well.
Okay, so like sentencing.
Yeah, particularly when it comes to sentencing.
The AI and sentencing, that feels
It could be a bit risky.
risky.
Yeah, if it's not implemented thoughtfully. But the goal here isn't to have AI replace judges.
Right.
It's about providing judges with more data-driven insights.
So I'm guessing this is where the idea of transparency comes in.
Exactly.
Like, we need to be able to understand how these algorithms are making judgments.
You're absolutely right. And that's why there's this whole field of explainable AI or XAI.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one technique that's often used called LIME.
LIME.
Yeah, LIME, it stands for Local Interpretable Model Agnostic Explanations. It sounds complicated, but it's basically a way to understand which factors are most influential in an AI's decision. So in the case of sentencing, LIME can help show why the AI assigned a particular risk score to an individual.
Oh, so it's like you can see what's going on under the hood.
Yeah.
Like, how did the AI actually come up with that decision?
Yeah, and that kind of transparency is really crucial for building trust in AI systems.
Especially in, like, the justice system, that's high-stakes stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about healthcare and law. What about business? I know that this chapter says even top CEOs are using AI for ethics.
Yeah, it might sound surprising, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Businesses face all kinds of ethical challenges.
Right, like what?
Well, things like preventing fraud, ensuring that hiring practices are fair, and upholding environmental standards.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And with companies having so much data,
Yeah,
it seems like unethical behavior could slip through the cracks pretty easily.
it definitely could. And
Huh.
that's where AI can be a really powerful tool. AI systems can actually analyze massive amounts of data to detect patterns that might indicate unethical behavior.
So like a digital detective.
In a way, yeah. And it's not just about catching the bad guys. AI can also be used proactively to promote ethical behavior. For instance, some companies are using AI to analyze their supply chains to make sure that they're sourcing materials responsibly and ethically.
I'm seeing a theme here. AI is all about helping us be better at what we're already doing.
That's a great way to put it. It's about augmenting human capabilities, whether it's a doctor making a life or death decision or a judge weighing a sentence, or a CEO trying to build an ethical business.
AI is giving us these new tools to deal with the ethical complexities of like the 21st century.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this chapter calls it a secret weapon for CEOs.
Mm.
What makes it so valuable in the business world?
Well, one thing is that AI can help companies identify and manage risk more effectively.
Okay, risk, like financial risk.
Yeah, financial risk for sure, but also reputational risk.
Yeah.
In today's world, consumers are way more aware of corporate social responsibility.
Right.
They want to support businesses that are aligned with their values.
So if a company is caught doing something unethical, it can really hurt their bottom line.
Absolutely, and that's where AI can help. By identifying potential ethical breaches early on, companies can avoid costly scandals.
Right, and protect their reputation.
Exactly.
It's like an early warning system for ethical lapses.
I like that analogy.
So this is all super interesting, but I have to admit, I'm starting to wonder, like, how does all of this actually impact me personally? I'm not a CEO or a doctor.
That's a great question, and it's one that we're actually going to explore in more depth as we continue our deep dive. But the truth is, AI is already having a pretty profound impact on our lives in ways that we might not even realize.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, think about it this way. The choices that you make as a consumer, the products that you buy, the companies that you support, those are all influenced by ethical considerations.
Yeah, that's true. I'm definitely more conscious of things like sustainability and fair labor practices than I used to be.
And AI is playing a growing role in those areas. Companies are using AI to develop more sustainable products and to track their supply chains to ensure ethical sourcing. So as a consumer, you're already benefiting from these ethical applications of AI, even if you're not directly interacting with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like it's already happening all around me.
Exactly. It goes way beyond just these few specific industries that we talked about. AI ethics is really something that touches all of our lives.
Okay, so before we go too much further, let's take a step back and just make sure we're all on the same page with what we've talked about so far.
Sure.
So we started by talking about how AI is being used to enhance human judgment in fields like healthcare and law.
Right.
And we talked about transparency being really important.
Yeah, transparency and explainable AI. It's all about building trust and making sure that these systems are used ethically.
And then we talked about how AI is becoming a strategic tool for businesses to manage risk and promote ethical behavior.
Yeah, and we started to touch upon how AI ethics impacts all of us as consumers and citizens.
Okay, so this is all really insightful, but I want to learn more about how AI can actually help us become better ethical decision makers ourselves. Because the chapter kind of hints at that, but doesn't really get into it.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's something that we're going to dive into much deeper in the next part of our deep dive. You know, we humans are riddled with cognitive biases that can really cloud our judgment, even when we have the best intentions.
Cognitive biases, what do you mean?
Well, our brains are kind of wired to take shortcuts, to make quick judgments based on limited information. And sometimes those shortcuts lead us astray, and we end up making decisions that are irrational or even unethical.
Oh, okay, so how can AI help us overcome that?
Well, that's the exciting part.
Like,
AI systems can be designed to process information in a much more objective and systematic way. They don't have the same emotional baggage or preconceived notions that we humans do.
right.
So they can help us see things more clearly and be more objective in our assessments and make decisions that are more aligned with our values.
This is getting really interesting. I can't wait to hear more about how AI can help us become more ethically aware and make better decisions.
Well, stay tuned, because that's exactly what we'll be unpacking in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, okay, so right before the break, we're getting into this idea of cognitive biases and how AI could help us overcome them. So let's dig into that a bit more.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. You know, as humans, we often fall prey to these mental shortcuts, even with the best intentions.
Yeah.
These shortcuts can lead to biased decisions.
Okay, so can you give me an example? Like, what do you mean by cognitive bias?
Sure, one common example is confirmation bias.
Okay.
So that's our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Right, yeah.
Even if that information is not entirely accurate or complete.
I know that one. Like arguing online and you only read articles that agree with you.
Exactly. You just kind of ignore anything that contradicts your view.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. There's anchoring bias, where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we get, even if it's irrelevant.
Oh.
And there are so many others. It's really fascinating how our brains work.
Okay, so where does AI fit into all of this?
Right. So that's the exciting part. AI systems can be designed to process information in a much more objective way.
Okay.
AI doesn't have those same emotional attachments that we do or preconceived notions.
They're like super rational.
In a way, yeah. They
Yeah.
could process information more systematically.
Mhm.
And there was this fascinating study from Stanford that really illustrates this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had humans and AI work together on ethical tasks, things like evaluating loan applications or making hiring decisions.
Okay. Interesting.
And the teams that included AI, they actually made more consistent and ethically sound decisions.
Than just humans working on their own.
Yeah, than just humans on it. It was like the AI was able to kind of point out blind spots
Oh, wow.
and inconsistencies that the humans missed. So it's like having an extra set of eyes.
An extra set of very objective eyes.
Exactly. Scanning for any potential bias.
But I gotta say, I'm still a little uncomfortable with the idea of like handing over ethical decisions to machines.
Right.
You know, it feels like we're losing something.
I understand that. And it's really important to remember that the goal here isn't to replace human judgment.
Right.
It's about making it more informed,
Okay.
less susceptible to those biases that we were talking about.
So it's a tool to help us refine our own ethics.
Precisely. AI can help us to see things more clearly, to be more objective in our assessments, and ultimately to make decisions that are more aligned with our values.
Okay, that makes sense. But how practical is this? Am I going to have an AI whispering in my ear every time I have to make a decision?
Maybe not whispering in your ear, but there are definitely ways to integrate AI into our decision-making. One approach is through something called decision support systems.
Decision support systems? What are those?
They're basically software applications that use AI to analyze data and provide recommendations. So, for example, imagine a judge is using a decision support system to help determine a sentence.
Okay.
The AI could consider all sorts of factors, like the defendant's criminal history, the nature of the crime, legal precedents, and it could flag any potential biases.
Oh, so like if the judge is being swayed by something, that shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like the defendant's race or their socioeconomic status, things like that.
Wow, that's really helpful. It's like having an AI assistant to help navigate those gray areas.
I like that, an AI assistant.
Yeah.
And that kind of approach can be applied to a ton of situations.
Yeah.
Hiring decisions, evaluating investment opportunities, even choosing which charities to support.
Oh, wow. So AI can help us be more ethical in like our personal lives too.
Absolutely. AI can help us identify our own blind spots, challenge our assumptions, and ultimately make choices that are more aligned with our values, both personally and professionally.
This is amazing. It makes you wonder, though, will everyone have access to this kind of technology?
That's a really important question. And it gets to the heart of responsible AI development. One approach is to make sure that we create AI systems that are accessible and affordable for everyone, not just large organizations.
So like AI-powered apps that could help people make more ethical choices.
Exactly. Imagine an app that could analyze the ethical implications of your shopping choices, or an app that could help you navigate difficult conversations about, say, race or gender.
That's a cool idea. It's like having an AI ethics coach in your pocket.
Right. And as AI technology gets more advanced, I think we can expect to see even more creative applications that empower people to make more ethical choices in their everyday lives.
Okay, I'm really starting to see AI in a whole new light. Like it really could be a force for good in the world.
I think so too. It has the potential to not just change how we make decisions, but also how we understand and live out our values.
This is a lot to think about. But it's exciting, too.
It is. And it's important to approach this new era of AI with a sense of optimism, but also with a bit of caution. It's a powerful tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
So it's up to us to make sure it's used ethically.
Exactly. We need to be thoughtful about the values that we embed in these systems. And we need to be very aware of the potential risks.
This chapter that we're looking at has focused on the positive side of AI ethics.
Right.
But what about the downsides? What are some of the things that we need to watch out for?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is that AI could actually amplify existing biases rather than reducing them.
How could that happen?
Well, remember, AI systems are trained on data.
Right.
And if that data reflects existing societal biases, the AI will learn and perpetuate those biases.
Oh, I see. So if it's trained on data that shows that, say, men are more likely to get hired for leadership positions, then it might conclude that men are just inherently better leaders.
Exactly. And that could lead to even more discrimination against women.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So how do we prevent that from happening?
Well, it takes a multi-pronged approach. We have to be very careful about the data that we use to train AI systems, making sure it's representative and diverse.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, it's also the quality of the data.
Precisely. And we need to make sure we're building AI systems that are transparent. We need to be able to understand how they're making those decisions so we can identify and correct any biases.
But whose responsibility is this? I mean, who's going to make sure all this happens?
Well, it's a shared responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
AI developers, policymakers, ethicists, and everyday people like you and me.
Wow, this is a lot. My head's spinning.
I hear you. It's a lot to process, but it's so important to have this conversation.
Yeah.
The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something that we're creating together right now.
So we can make sure that it's a future where AI is used to help people.
Exactly. And it starts by asking these questions, challenging assumptions, and having open and honest conversations about these ethical implications.
Okay, this chapter has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. But before we wrap things up, I'm curious to hear what you think about this.
Okay.
We've been talking about how AI can help us be more ethical.
Right.
But do you think it could actually change our understanding of morality itself?
That's a big question. I'm not sure I have an answer to that.
That's right. It's a question that philosophers and ethicists are debating right now. As AI gets more sophisticated, it might start to come up with solutions to ethical problems that we humans find strange or even unacceptable.
So like AI suggesting something that goes against our own moral beliefs.
Exactly. And it highlights the need for a constant dialogue between AI developers and ethicists and society. We have to talk about the values that we're putting into these AI systems and make sure that those values are aligned with human well-being.
It's not just about smart AI, it's about ethical AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process.
Okay, well, let's take a pause here. We'll come back and try to put all of this together. Okay, so we're back. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like my brain is full.
I know, right? We've talked about so much AI helping doctors, judges, CEOs, and then like AI changing how we think about being human.
Yeah, it's a lot. So for our listener who's been with us this whole time, what are the big takeaways? What do we want them to remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is AI isn't this perfect ethical machine. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
We keep saying that AI is about helping us make better judgments, not replacing us altogether.
Right. It comes down to the choices we make about how we develop AI and how we use it. Those choices are going to determine if it's a force for good or if it creates new problems.
We talked a lot about transparency and explainable AI, but what does that look like in the real world? Like, what can developers do to make these systems understandable?
Well, there's some cool techniques being developed. Like there's one called SHAP. It stands for Shapley Additive Explanations. But basically it lets you break down an AI's decision.
Okay.
So you can see how much each factor contributed to the final answer.
So instead of just getting a yes or no from the AI, you can actually see why it said yes or no.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine you're applying for a loan and the AI says no. Well, with SHAP, you could see that your credit score was the biggest factor, and then maybe your income was next, and then how much debt you have.
Oh, that would be so helpful. Then you could understand the decision and maybe even appeal it if you thought it was wrong.
Right, and that's the power of explainable AI. It gives people more power in a world where algorithms are making more and more decisions about our lives.
And this isn't just about individuals. This is about fairness for everyone, right?
Absolutely. If we want AI to be used ethically, we have to be able to see what it's doing, make sure it's not biased or creating new inequalities.
It's like the stakes are really high here.
They are. It's not just about making AI work better or make more money. We're talking about what kind of world we want to live in.
This feels like a really big responsibility.
Yeah, it is. And we're at a turning point with AI. And what we do now matters a lot.
It can't just be the tech people who figure this out, right? We all have to be involved.
That's right. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a politician, or just someone who uses technology every day. We all have a stake in this.
Okay, so what can a regular person do to make sure AI is used ethically?
Yeah.
What can I do?
Well, you can start by just learning about AI, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
There's so much information online at the library.
And I'm guessing paying attention to what companies are doing with AI is important too.
Yeah, definitely. Read the news, look at their policies, and support the companies that are doing AI the right way.
So now we have to be ethical consumers, not just about the products we buy, but about the algorithms too.
Yeah, kind of. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand how an AI is working, ask for an explanation.
We shouldn't just trust AI blindly. We have to demand transparency.
Exactly. And use your voice. Talk about AI ethics with your friends, with your family, with politicians.
This has been quite a deep dive.
It has.
We've only just started to explore this topic.
Yeah, just scratch the surface.
But it's given us a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
Yeah.
AI ethics is changing all the time, but it's one of the most important conversations we can be having right now.
So as we finish up today, I want to leave our listener with a feeling of hope. AI can do so much good in the world, but we have to make that happen.
I agree. The future of AI isn't written yet. We're all writing it together every time we make a choice, every time we have a conversation about it.
That's what makes this so interesting. It's kind of empowering. We get to help decide what the future looks like.
We do. And that's a responsibility we shouldn't take lightly.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into AI and ethics. We hope this got you thinking and maybe even inspired you to learn more. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep the conversation going.